Grixis, Delver, the weapons of choice here for both players. I was surprised when I saw Jacob's deck list. I thought for sure he'd be on Team or Delver. Maybe he's just trying to take players for a little bit of a surprise here this weekend.
I don't know if Jacob is necessarily that worried about the metagaming. What do people think that he's going to be playing? Your comfort zone is your comfort zone in Legacy. The format's very complicated. So if you think that this is the right strategy for you, you can't worry all that much about if people are going to be packing a lot of Delver hate.
Well, we see that Hunter Nance is game number 1. Life total is here in favor of Hunter as well. He's at 14, Wilson at 12, but Wilson has the better battlefield at this stage. A Deathrite Shaman, Young Pyromancer with 3 Elemental tokens, and a Delver of Secrets. It looks like a Murderous Cut's going to be going after that Delver, and Hunter has 2 Delvers of his own. None of them are flipped yet, however, as Wilson is searching up a Volcanic Island. Jacob is going to Spell Pierce that Murderous Cut. Another Elemental token, and now we check here with Delver. Take a look. Force of Will to reveal. They're both going to flip. This might be a game that Hunter's able to just run away with.
You see the life totals here. Wilson's dead in 2 shots.
And that's a shoulder shrug and an attack. Wilson's going to fall down to 5, and I think if you're Hunter Nance, you're hoping, please don't kill me. Well, there's a Daze to reveal.
That's a big one. A block. If Wilson is able to block, the clock becomes 2 turns, and that might be enough for him to leverage Young Pyromancer and Deathrite Shaman. Very tight game, obviously.
Underground Sea. Another copy of Young Pyromancer. Nance is going to quickly untap. Is there a removal spell? Picked up a copy of Brainstorm. He's going to cast that Brainstorm. We could see Wilson Daze here. That would bring him 2 Elemental tokens.
On top of that, it forces Nance to draw Lightning Bolt plus red source of mana. If he lets this go, then if Nance finds a land plus a bolt, there's nothing that Wilson can really do.
A Force of Will, a Painful Truth, another copy of Brainstorm are the finds here for Hunter Nance.
I mean, this is very straight up. If he can get the Insectile Aberration off the table, he's got to win. If not, he's dead on the way back.
And we find that he does not have an answer. And Jacob Wilson's going to win game number 2 here over Hunter Nance. The Grixis Delver Mirror goes to the player on the left. It's all tied up as we get ready here for game number 3. Now, as you take a look at the sideboards here, Hunter's got some interesting things going on. So you're going to find Izzet Static Caster, Sulfuric Vortex, 2 Abrupt Decays and a Dark Blast, 2 Flusterstorm Murderous Cut, 2 Bioblast, 4 copies of Gual Therapy, and a copy of Painful Truth. So he's got quite a few of those this weekend.
And the Dark Blasts really stand out as one of the better cards you can have in the mirror match. This is an answer to Delver Secrets before it flips, and Young Pyromancer can also be paired with cantrips to get Deathrite Shaman off the table. The rest of the sideboard isn't that exciting to me for the matchup. I'm not that big on bringing in the discard spells, but with Jacob on the play, it becomes a little bit more attractive. Really only the Dark Blasts and maybe the Pyroblasts stand out as the solid ones here.
On Jacob's side, you see Pit the Needle, a Tormod's Crypt, an Ancient Grudge, 2 Dark Blasts of his own, a Price of Progress, 2 Pyroblast, 2 Submerged, an Ancestral Vision, 3 Cabal Therapy, and a Tropical Island. So both players looking for a little bit of extra card drawing their sideboards this weekend. Jacob going with the Suspend type and Ancestral Vision. Hunter going with the more painful one in Painful Truths.
I think that Hunter had both copies of Painful Truths in his hand at the end of that game. He has one in the main deck and one on the sideboard. So I'm guessing that Hunter has tried to take a more controlling position in the matchup, leverage the removal, and then gas back up with Painful Truths. If he's taken that sort of path, it wouldn't surprise me if he's brought in some copies of the Cabal Therapies. Maybe the Izzet Static Casters come in. I think the Murderous Cut, the Dark Blast, and the Abrupt Decays are pretty straightforward, though.
Well, those are the options there for both players, and game number 3 will be underway here in just a bit. As we get ready to watch game number 3 unfold, we will very quickly talk about the Fall Creature Collection here with Star City Games, where we've taken some of your game night favorites, put them on playmats, sleeves, and player bundles.
Yes, you see the Hippo, the Otter, the Reindeer, and Penguillian Click available on playmat, sleeves, and player bundles over at starcitygames.com/creature collection or at our dealer booth at any of our opens or any of the Grand Prix we're at.
You can expect to see a Winter 2016 collection on the way soon enough, but for now we've got Fall 2015, starcitygames.com/creature collection for more information there. And now we learn a little bit more about Hunter Nance, a player that we have seen on the Open Series some this year. He's got 4 Open Series top 8s, quite a few runner-up finishes for the 22-year-old from Raleigh, North Carolina, but he just couldn't get the win in the finals a couple times this year.
Yeah, several-time finalist here, a student at NC State. A player who did a lot of his damage on the IQ circuit, but also, as you can see, 4 Open Series top 8s to his name as well.
261 Open Series points this year. And you see his lifetime record versus the PC field, 7-5. Doing battle here against Jacob Wilson. We know that Matthias Hunt, he loves his math and his stats, and so he took a look at to see how everyone did against all the other players in the field, as well if they've ever played against each other before. And seeing if Hunter has played against Jacob Wilson, the answer is no. It's their first meeting.
Which is not surprising because Jacob probably has the least amount of matches played on the Open Series in 2015 of any of the players of the Players' Championship. Despite the Season 1 Invitational, was not a mainstay on the Open Series past that point.
You know, we saw, as you mentioned, Jacob, right at the beginning of the year, he played one more Invitational and just a handful of Opens, and that's just about it. But when you get your work done early, well, you're allowed to do that. It is a benefit. Both players prepare to take a look at their opening hands here.
Of course, a lot riding on this Game 3. You want to be on the top side of that modern group stage.
Yes. Very important stuff there. And away we go. It's a ponder here for Nance. He'll take a look at the top couple of cards. Deathrite Shaman, a Brainstorm, and a Lightning Bolt. One of the options here for Hunter. He does have his copy of Dark Blast in hand.
Pretty solid set of cards here. Nance's hand appears to be a little land-heavy, 3 solid spells to pick up.
Looks like he'll keep with that ponder. And now we go back Jacob Wilson's way. Both players did keep 7 cards this game. For Wilson, it's a Tropical Island and a Delver of Secrets, so he wants to get to the board first. For Nance, he'll draw his card, pick up a copy of Brainstorm. He'll play a copy of Polluted Delta, and now here is the Brainstorm. That'll resolve 3 cards coming. 2 cards, of course, will have to go back. Lightning Bolt is 1, Daze is 2, and Wasteland is number 3.
So this is a nice set of turns here for Nance. He can clear off the worst 2 cards there by shuffling via the Polluted Delta, cast the Dark Blast in his hand on the Delver of Secrets, and even if that gets countered somehow, he's got several copies of Lightning Bolt left over in his hand to finish off the Delver.
Looks like a pretty good start.
His hand was not, his opening 7 did not look great, a little land heavy, but that's what Brainstorm and Ponder do.
And there is Dark Blast. Force of Will to draw here for Wilson. And Dark Blast is something that makes things so tough. Such a great card in the mirror.
It's not great at every single spot, but when you have it early on in the game, especially when you're on the play, Delver of Secrets and Young Pyromancer become very, very hard to get going. And at that point, you're basically playing with Gurmag Anglers and Deathrite Shamans to a degree. These decks are so threat-light that when large amounts of the threats are cut out early in the game, it can be very challenging to get any sort of offense going.
Oh, here's Young Pyromancer. Right into the face of Dark Blast. What do you think about that? Well, he's got a Daze.
I would imagine that Jacob, if this card resolved, would be willing to Force of Will the Dark Blast the next turn. Maybe Hunter doesn't have another answer. You can get something really going the following turn. And even in the worst case scenario, you have a 1-1 for your troubles.
There's Wasteland. Here's Deathrite Shaman.
And Wilson might have to Force of Will this, because Hunter can fall up here and Wasteland Jacob's Volcanic Island. At that point, the Lightning Bolts are shut off, and Wilson doesn't have much of a hand at that point.
Mm-hmm.
See, the leftovers is a Young Pyromancer. That's not very good in the face of the Dark Blast. So this is not a good-looking Force of Will here, but Jacob's hand doesn't really let him do anything else.
This might just be a necessary Force of Will. Wasteland going to go after the Volcanic Island. Now we head back Wilson's way. He'll Wasteland back. This is your dream.
It is my dream, and also my nightmare. It's both things at the same time.
A Volcanic Island, and now a Delver of Secrets here for Nance. That will resolve. We head back Jacob's way. Jacob will draw.
And that Wasteland last turn, you know, you have some Wastelands that are, I'm ahead and I'm trying to lock out your mana. And you have some that are, I just hope you kind of can't play if this happens. Last turn, you saw Jacob do one of the latter to give himself a little bit of breathing space. Now he has an opportunity maybe to cast a Young Pyromancer. He can hope that Hunter doesn't have black mana, and then that Dark Blast isn't a concern.
Yep. Time for Nance to take a look with the top card. See how he does with the Delver. It does not appear to be flipping. And now Nance will be dredging Deathrite, Young Pyromancer, and Daze down. Dark Blast back to the grip.
And that's really bad news for Wilson. I think he was just hoping there that Nance did not have black mana. Maybe he would get some breathing space for the Young Pyromancer, or in the worst case scenario.
Well, no black mana just
Okay.
yet. It just looks like Hunter didn't want to draw that card.
Sure.
Which is also, it's also fair game. Delver does come across here for 1.
Yeah, it looks like Nance just valued having a Dark Blast over whatever the top card of his deck was.
There's Lightning Bolt. And now here's Deathrite Shaman. But Jacob is very low on cards. Hunter's got plenty of cards to work with as he draws a copy of Brainstorm for the turn. What comes next here for Nance? He's got a Ponder and a Brainstorm in hand. Does he want to go manipulating? Perhaps he has a Lightning Bolt to kill the Deathrite Shaman?
He can just cast the Bolt or cantrip. The reason that I like to Bolt here is because if he cantrips, he either has to allow Wilson to untap with the Deathrite Shaman, which is not great, or fetch another red source to Bolt in the same turn. So I'd rather do it the way that Nance did it the last turn.
Here's a Ponder from Jacob. He'll take a look at the top couple of cards here, see if he wants to keep them. Jacob really hoping to probably find a Wasteland. Hunter looking to fade a Wasteland this turn.
You can see right now that the game, I think that Nance has gotten the better of it thus far on a lot of these exchanges, but one big play from either one of these players can blow this game wide open.
Well, it could be one big play from 4 turns from now for Jacob as he does suspend a copy of Ancestral Vision. Here's a Ponder from Nance. That'll resolve. Take a look at the top couple of cards. A Painful Truce, a Deathrite Shaman, and a Brainstorm. Very quick shuffle here for Hunter.
And I question Painful Truce in this kind of matchup because who has 3 mana? When have you ever had 3 mana Delver? Back when Teamer Delver was all the rage, and I saw True Name Nemesis in people's sideboards, I thought, oh, that's got to be great in the mirror. You can't really kill it. It's hard to interact with. But over time, I found it's actually not that good in the mirror because you never have 3 mana unless you're winning the game anyway. And these Painful Truths are not nearly as good as True Name Nemesis if they resolve, and it comes with the same problems.
Gataxian Probe going to reveal a Delver of Secrets. It's a redraw here for Hunter. Can he find a land? It looks like the answer is no.
And Jacob is a wasteland away from blowing this game wide open.
Yep.
And there's just a lot of pressure on Hunter to find something soon because the Visions is ticking down.
How about another Ponder? That'll resolve. Take a look at the top couple. Deathrite, Volcanic, Young Pyromancer.
This might be a shuffle too. I mean, it's a very... He can keep these hands. It's very slow. He would have to basically take a Volcanic, cast Young Pyromancer the next turn, and then try to cast a spell the following turn. It's a path, but I don't think it's good enough. Hunter needs an Underground Sea.
Yeah.
He needs an Underground Sea to start doing something.
Remember, he's got that Dark Blast in his hand. He'd love to kill that Delver of Secrets because chances are that Delver's going to flip because Jacob knows what's on top of his deck because of the Ponder. Mystery card on the way here. Touchdown. That's what he needed. It was a smart shuffle there, too. I think when you see a second land there, if you're Hunter, it could be enticing to keep it.
It basically gives Nance a path to a D-plus set of turns.
Yeah.
And Hunter is behind enough at this point where he needs to shoot for something higher.
There's Dark Blast. Delver down. Wilson's Visions is down to 2. That's still looming over this game.
Yes.
Wasteland the draw here for Hunter. That's pretty good.
That's a nice one.
Looks like he's going to go with Young Pyromancer and simply pass the turn back. There's Lightning Bolt. And it looks like we're going to see a Brainstorm in response. So an Elemental Token on the way. And now he'll take a look at the top 3 cards and have to put 2 back, of course.
Not a huge surprise that there was a cantrip in hand there, as that was an attractive spot, I think, for Hunter to knock out the Volcanic Island.
see what cards Hunter wants to put back here. There's a Delver in there, Brainstorm, and Painful Truths, a lot of different stuff.
He essentially has the option to shuffle away one of these cards because one of the 4 cards he's looking at right now is a fetch land, so he can set 2 back. He has to draw one of them next turn, but if he wants to get rid of one of them, or at least have the option of getting rid of one of them, he can set the worst one down.
All right, those are gone. Pass the turn back. Visions goes down to 1. That was a quick sacrifice there from Jacob. What do we think's on the way here? I mean, he couldn't sack that. He couldn't sack that fetch line fast enough.
That was immediate.
Clearly, he wants black mana for something.
Maybe Gurmag Angler.
And that's the answer. The big 5/5.
And this card is a monster in the mirror match. I mean, there's not really much in the way of terminate style effects floating around in these decks. Most of the removal is damage based. Hunter does have 1 copy of Murderous Cut in his sideboard, I believe, so he can draw out of this. But Gurmag Angler, not only is it the best card, but with Hunter's plan for this turn probably be to gas up with Painful Truths. A 5/5 is awesome. That's the best thing to punish Hunter for taking a turn off and taking 3 points of damage to gas up.
Hunter will sacrifice the Scalding Tarn. We'll see what land he wants to search up here. He has a Tropical Island in his deck, too. Looks like he'll go with Volcanic Island. He can very easily gas up this turn, as you did mention.
The problem is that Wilson's going to be one that's creating all the leverage here because he's also going to untap and draw 3 cards and then go into his main phase with 4 cards in hand and a 5/5 versus a 1/1.
3 cards on the way as Nance falls down to 12. Static Caster, Daze, Angler of his own. Will he Wasteland now? He might have some interest in keeping that mana around to play multiple spells in a turn.
Yeah, the problem is that his hand's still pretty tight on mana. You know, next turn he may want to play Angler plus Static Caster, for example.
This is tough, too, because do you want to Wasteland when you know your opponent's drawing 3 cards from Visions plus a 4th?
Exactly. And with Nance's hand being as top-heavy as it is, it's possible that his land's better than Wilson's, but I think he just wants to cut off as many of Wilson's draws as possible.
Yeah, he will Wasteland. Visions is going to resolve. So both players have gassed back up here in the late game. Here comes the Angler. Nance says, I'll take the 5. He'll fall to 7. You like taking the 5 there? Feels a little risky.
You're probably banking with a handful of creatures of being able to trump block with that token at some point.
There's Young Pyromancer. That looks like that's in there.
Hunter, it looks like he's contemplating dazing because he can't afford to have the Underground Sea tagged by the Wasteland.
Mm-hmm. And now, Wilson will just pass the turn back after paying for the days.
And now being down those lands, it's a pretty big cost right now because the Angler might be just most of his turn here. The drawing Lightning Bolt is huge.
There's the Underground Sea again. And now Hunter's going to play his own Angler, it appears. Tough to say who's got the better of this right now because both players just gassed back up.
I usually prefer to be the player on the front foot. I think Jacob right now has an edge, although if this Angler gets into play, we're back at parity, and Hunter might actually be a little bit ahead given the quality of his hand.
You see an Angler, a Bolt to take care of the Young Pyromancer, and now a Delver of Secrets, and a passing of the turn. It's a really solid turn there from Nance. Remember that Nance does have that Dark Blast in the graveyard. Wilson will untap and take a draw here. He does have a Force of Will. Looks like he picked up a copy of Deathrite Shaman now. And also a Scalding Tarn in hand. Things getting tough here for Jacob.
Well, with Wasteland in play, Deathrite Shaman in hand, this is not so bad because you can cut Hunter off of black mana, assume that he trades there, Angler versus Angler, and then your board is Deathrite Shaman, and you're ahead by a little bit in the life total race.
And Jacob putting the brakes on. Will Delver flip? The answer is no. So does Hunter want to attack with his angler, or are we having an angler staring contest? Jacob checking all the zones to see what resources have been exhausted from both sides.
And now we got to start checking things like, are there any underground seas left in Hunter's deck?
Yep.
There's only 2 in the list. They're both gone.
Not good. Look at this attack.
I do not know what this is representing. I mean, if Hunter is on Staticaster, that's his route here. If Wilson is perceptive of that, he can just put Angler in front of Delver of Secrets. He doesn't have to cooperate here. And then you're down your Delver in a spot where the board's kind of getting gummed up a little bit, and you might need a flyer really badly given the life totals and the fact that Jacob has a Deathrite Shaman that you can't answer right now. It's a very risky attack. If you're able to get the Deathrite Shaman off the table, assuming that Wilson double blocks, it's okay. Now it's Angler against Angler, and you're Staticaster. But if Wilson just goes, all right, Angler in front of Delver of Secrets, this looks pretty bad.
It feels like a Hail Mary.
And the deck lists are public.
Yeah.
Jacob right now is going through his head, thinking, what could possibly rationalize this attack? And the thing is, Wilson's got enough life to work with that he can err on the side of caution here. He doesn't have to do anything too risky. If he sniffs out that it's Staticaster, he can say, okay, I can go to 14. That's not that bad here.
I think that's the big one, is that he can just say, I don't know, work my way through the decision, and I'm not blocking with my Deathrite Shaman because I've got a pretty healthy amount of life to work with.
He sniffed it out. I mean, that's really the only card that can really rationalize the attack there.
Yeah, well, Delver down. It's a Floodstrand, just a passing of the turn. So a pretty risky bluff there by Nance, and it does not look like it worked out.
Yeah, that's a spot where I think the risk-reward assessment there is really rough. Wilson has your deck list. He's going to be going through. It's not like you're representing something like Flame Slash after combat or some weirdo card. Wilson can sit down and think about everything and deduce that Staticaster could really be the only thing going on here. I'm not going to commit my Deathrite Shaman to the block.
Nance will draw. And you mentioned it looks like both Underground Seas gone. So now Wilson going to get to work with Deathrite Shaman.
That's also a place where I thought that Wilson was very perceptive there. I thought that Wilson should have offered up the Angler trade because Nance might get back the Dark Blast and then be able to win in combat, but he knew that he was cutting Nance off of black mana for the rest of the game.
Bolt upstairs. This is on the upkeep. Deathrite you. And that is going to do it. Jacob Wilson is going to win this match here over Hunter Nance, 2-1. The Grixis Delvermere goes to the player on the left, and for Wilson, he got off to an 0-2 start here this weekend. Lost to Brad Nelson, lost to Kevin Jones. But if you're in the tournament, you can still win the tournament. And now he moves on to be in the group that'll battle for buys. Hunter Nance will slide down to the play to stay group.